Okay, part 2 of 1.3, the surface area. We'll just go through the second example here. This one causes a bit of problems because there's a few assumptions that you have to make. This is making a book, there's a bookcase, and we're trying to paint it. So he wants to paint the entire visible surface. You'll not paint the back, which stands against the wall. So depending on what you all assume, for me, I'm going to assume, because it says that their pieces of plywood are 2 centimeters thick, I'm going to also assume that the back is 2 centimeters thick, which is going to mean something for the middle here. So with something like this, the important thing is just to keep track of all the things that you're calculating. So if you've got to calculate the surface area, one thing that I like to do to kind of make my life a little bit easier is I just picture this thing from the front. I'm not going to worry about the thickness of the wood right now. It's actually not really accurate, but there's 1, 2, 3 shelves plus the top. Now, if I've got to paint this whole thing, I'm just going to imagine looking at it from the front, how much is that going to be painted? Okay, and so basically I'm thinking of just, this is all going to be painted, including the edges here. And so I can do that all with one calculation then. Okay, so that's all being painted, as well as the back of this thing. Right, the shelves I'm going to worry about later, but if I look at it like this, I can just make a single calculation there. And the way I can do that is just 140 high by 115 across. Okay, that's going to give me the front. Now, as I go through this, it's good to keep track. So if I just say, okay, that's going to give me the front. Then I can go to the outside. This is 22 wide by 140. So 140 by 22. And the left is going to be the same as the outside right. So I've got 2 calculations there. Okay, the top also presumably is going to be done 115 by 22. Okay, as you make these calculations, you could just kind of label where you're getting them from so that you don't lose track, because this is going to cause problems. There's one on your worksheet that's similar to this. It's important to keep track of all your calculations as you go. Okay, now assuming that the back is also 2 centimeters thick, that would mean that this inside dimension here is actually 2 centimeters less than 22. It's actually only going to be 20. So that's an assumption you're going to make, or I'm going to make at least. So I've got a whole bunch of surfaces that are actually the same. The bottom here, the top of the shelf, the bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. So assuming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 surfaces that are all going to be the same. 7 by 20 by, now this isn't 115, that's the outside. If this is 2 centimeters and this is 2 centimeters, you take off 2 and another 2 off of the 115. So that's going to give you 111. Okay, so that will take care of the front so far, the left, the right, the top, and the shelves. The only thing I need to still calculate is these inside, so basically the inside of this. And so one way, the way that I kind of calculate that is by thinking, okay, this is 140 on the outside. Rather than think of them as 4 different separate pieces, I'm just going to think of it as 140 minus the 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. So in other words, 140 minus 8 gives me 132 as the height of the inside. So that's kind of the tricky part, but it's a nice little shortcut rather than calculating those 4 things separately. The width will still be 20, right? Because the inside will not be 22, but assuming that it's 20 thick, will leave me with 20. And then what if that's the amount for the inside on this side? If I double that, it'll give me my amount here. Okay, so keeping track of it, you're going to notice that this answer is not going to be the same answer as the one in the book, because I think they assume something different, but I think this makes the most sense for what we're doing. Okay, so if you make these calculations quickly, 2 of those, you get 6,160. 115 by 22 gives you 2,530. 7 by 20 by 111 for that one. 15,540. And then this one, 132 by 20 by 2. 5,280. So if I add up all those, I have the answer in front of me. You can check to make sure that I'm doing this right. We should get 45,610. and we're talking about centimeters squared when we're talking about surface area. Okay, so hopefully you can follow along, but just help yourself along top. I didn't label these last two, but they're the last two I had to do. Just make sure you're calculating, double check that you actually calculated all of the surfaces. Okay, so slightly different than in the book, but we're assuming probably something different than they did. Okay, another surface area type question. This one's going to be a little bit easier, I think. We've got a house. We can estimate. I'm not really going to be asking you about estimating, but more interested in that you can calculate. So if I look at the outside, we don't see windows or anything. It's just a basic house. We could calculate 5 by 6. That'll give us this surface. But it'll also give you the same surface on the other side if you just double that, if you multiply it by 2. Okay? This side, the right side is 5 high by 10. So 5 by 10, and it's going to be the same on the other side. So you could calculate by multiplying by 2. Then you take care of the roof. The roof is a slant 5 by 10, assuming that this is also 5 by 10 as well, and we can double it because that'll give us this side as well as that side of the roof. And then finally, the only thing I have to calculate is the triangle. So we have to remember base times height divided by 2 for a triangle. So this is the height, and this is the base. So 6 times 4. Now we could divide by 2 and then multiply by 2 because we've got 2 triangles. Or we could just leave it as 6 times 4. Either way, you're going to get 24 at the end. This gives us 50 times 2 is 100. This also gives us 100. This gives us 30 times 2 is 60. And again, area of all the surfaces is surface area. Add them all up. 284 meters squared. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of catch on. Some of the questions are going to be pretty straightforward. Other ones are pretty tricky. But the key is to always keep track of all your surfaces and make sure that you are calculating them correctly. So page 32, I have a few questions you can practice. I've listed them again on Google Classroom. You don't need to do them all